In this lesson, we're going to have a look at a slow blues fingerstyle piece played in A. Let's have a listen to it, and I'll come back and we'll start breaking it down. Hey, John here with the Blues Guitar Institute, and we're going to take a look at that piece that you just heard. Before we get into it though, a couple things. I'm in standard tuning. I'm playing this fingerstyle, and this is on the slow side right now, and the performance piece that you just heard was played at 66 beats per minute. This is a really cool thing to do every now and then if you're used to playing at a higher tempo. Slow things down. You're going to notice some things in your playing that maybe need to be tweaked and worked on a little bit, and it will really challenge your timing. So let's get into today's 12-bar study. So for beat 1, we're going to play just the bass by itself, and then on beat 2, we start the melody. That's the first measure. So the lick starts off with that little triplet from the E to the F sharp to the A for the second beat. For beat 3, what we're going to do is hammer up with a little slight hammer. This is more of an embellishment and kind of a ghost note or a pickup note, really, because we're really targeting this 8th fret on the first string, this C note. Then we back down, 7, 5, and then reach up and get this G on the second string before heading into this. But when you put that together with the bass, you get this. And so this is the top of bar 2. It's a cool way, hear how we just kind of fell into that? This is really the leading edge of that chord. Resolving down into the D7. And we're not playing all the notes of the full D7 chord. We're leaving out the A here, but we've got the heart of it. So now that you're in this chord, we're going to switch our bass picking to the open 4th string. But something really tricky happens in this measure. It's that little slide. And that's definitely a bluesy sound that we've got going on, but it takes some work to get that down. What I'm doing is I've got it fretted this way. Notice I've got my index finger and my little finger there. That helps me to stretch out just a little bit because I want to go down to the 4th fret on the 3rd string and do this little sort of double slide here. And the timing of that is it starts on the and of 2, so 2 and then for beat 3, so on top of the beat, we're going to do it again, and we're going to pinch that with the bass. So again, separate out your fingers a little bit, drop down to the 4th fret, and slide into that C note on the 3rd string. And then on the offbeat there, we're going to reach up and hit that A. So you'll want to, after you do that slide, flatten out into a bar with your index finger. Then we hit the bass by itself and then the C by itself before hammering up to the C sharp. Whoops, to get us back into A. It's a clever way to kind of call out the chord changes here. So when this hammer falls, you're plucking that with your bass. Then we do a little walk up on the 2nd string on our way to the D7 chord here. So for our D chord, now that we're here, what we're going to do is kind of use that same G to F sharp under the D7 chord as we did before, but instead of going to this sort of more open sounding chord, because we got this open string, we're going to close it up a little bit and use this form of the bass is still going to pluck out on the 4th string, but notice now that that's actually an A note at the 7th fret rather than a D note if we had the open string going here. Just something to add a little bit of color to this D7 part. We're definitely playing in D7 because the chord tells us that, but we're using the 5th in the bass rather than the A, okay? So what we're doing is we are playing the 4th string and the 2nd string at the 7th fret for 1. On the end of 1, we're going to catch the dominant 7 note, the flat 7 of the chord, the C here at the 8th fret. So that's what's giving it that bluesy dominant 7 vibe. So we do this, then we roll through strings 4, 3, and 2 with a triplet before pinching the A on the 4th string and the D up here at the 10th fret on the 1st string. And then strum through with your thumb these 3 strings under the bar. And then kind of choke down on that. We want this to be a real staccato note. We don't want to let that ring. We want to kind of end this little light and ringy phrase with a real sort of choppy note there, or chord. Then, on the end of 4, slide into the 7th fret, and we're starting the next bar, which is also in D. Slide up again. So that little part. Once we're here, we're going to start moving into a lick. So we finish up beat 1 with this 2nd string note. That's the and of 1. And then we do this triplet move. That can be a little bit tricky. We're going to use the middle of this. We're going to pull off from the 8th fret to the 7th under a bar. And then on the last note of that triplet, we're going to shift our hand and try to use your ring finger there, because it's going to help you with the rest of the lick to be in this position. So that's the 1st triplet, the 2nd triplet, the A note, the F sharp, the open E. Then we move down, we got that open string ring. It's a great time to move your hand down and catch the D note on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, pull off to the C, and then down on the A. So a lot of triplet action happening there. Then we're back in A, and we're going to do this move, which has a lot of chromatic sounds going on. So what's happening there is let that bass ring, that open A, then we're going to fret more of a traditional A7 right here, and we're going to move that shape. So I'm just plucking the 4th and the 2nd string, 2, 3, from 4 slide into 5, kind of roll through and pick up that E note, back to 4, back to 3, then you want to play. Get yourself into this long A position. Reach up and grab the octave, this high A here. Back down to the 4. And you're going to pluck the 4th string bass note there. Under that bar. Now we're plucking the G note, that all-important flat 7 note in relation to the chord, and then we end up with this little lick, which works great as a little device to get us to the next chord, which is a big moment. It's our 5 chord, our E7, which is where we're going. From here, we're going to move into some chording. We're going to let that E note ring, and then we're going to play around with this shape for the E7. It comes from this D7 shape. We're just moving it up a step into E. And we're going to pluck these with these 3 fingers at the same time. All right, so that's pretty much the move there. So we're flattening the chord, coming back a little bit. We're going to repeat that pattern as the progression moves us down into D. For this one, when you flatten out the chord, you'll end up picking up your index finger before coming back. Then we do a very similar little lick, but this one has a triplet rhythm to get us out of this and back to A, because we're ready for the turnaround. Now the turnaround is kind of got that classic vibe. We've got a descending chromatic line. It sounds like this. So that's the chromatic part. And then once we roll through here, you're going to do a little triplet starting on the 2nd fret of the 1st string as we kind of roll ourselves into the E7 portion of this bar. So the whole turnaround sounds like this. So there you go, a full 12-bar arrangement played pretty slow. Again, the tempo here has been 66 beats per minute, and we've got some cool fingerstyle stuff happening in here and a couple of licks that might challenge your technique a little bit. So this is a good one to practice and work toward. Just be sure that you're aware of the chord changes. That's really one of the highlights of this particular piece. We use the melody and the licks even to kind of move us along and move us into the chord changes. So as you're practicing this and learning it, be aware of where that's happening and make sure that you can see it, and more importantly, that you can hear it. So that wraps up things for this lesson. Be sure to come on back next Tuesday. Hit the subscribe button if you dig this, and definitely give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing here at Blues Guitar Institute. I hope to see you back here next Tuesday. Until then, play on.